Dealing with student loans can be an absolute nightmare. You might not even be sure where they're at and what programs might be available to you. Maybe you thought your student loans automatically went into deferment during COVID. However, I have found with a lot of my clients that that wasn't the case, either because they didn't fill out the correct form or call, or their student loans were defaulted prior to COVID, and so they just never got around to really checking, kind of that bury your head in the sand. So in this video, we're going to talk about where to find your student loans, how to check on them to find out what the status is, how to pull them out of default, or if you were in the COVID deferment and now they're coming out and you're not sure you can afford them, how can we be proactive in order to make sure those student loans stay on track? The first thing we want to talk about is defaulted student loans. There's a couple ways where you can pull those student loans out of default. You can get rid of a lot of the deferred interest and the penalties to get these student loans on track. If you're not sure even where your student loans are, don't worry, I'm going to get to that. But the first thing is the defaulted student loans. Two things that you want to look for is you want to try to get into a hardship deferment. That's one option if you're able to achieve that. Basically what's going to happen is they're going to pull your student loans out of collection. They're no longer going to report that it is a collection or that it's past due. The hardship deferment typically lasts for about 6 months, depending on your situation, but it stops all that negative reporting, which is a great thing for you. The other thing is it will pull you off the CAVRS list, which means if you're trying to buy a home using an FHA loan and you're on CAVRS, you'll get denied just for that. The other option that you can do with defaulted student loans is get into what's called a student loan rehabilitation program. I've seen it where the repayments are as low as $5 a month. Typically, they set you up on a plan for 9 months, so you make 9 consecutive payments of $5 a month, and they reset your student loans. They get rid of all the penalties, all the interest, and then they set you up with a new servicer, which is an awesome thing. Now, what they won't tell you, if you're in a hurry and you're trying to buy a house and you need to pull those student loans out of default, is after 3 months, you can call them up and ask them to accelerate that process to get you sold to a new servicer after 3 months. And the reason why you want to do this is because your student loans are going to report negative and past due and in collection until you complete the rehabilitation program. So you can accelerate that after 3 months. Now, before I get into you're in deferment and you're coming out, how do we fix that? I have links to all 3 credit bureaus down below, and that's going to help you check your credit without a hard pull. You won't get scores, and you'll be able to see exactly maybe where your student loans are at. I also have a link that will help you find your student loans if you're not sure where to even begin. I got a link in the description for that as well. But for now, we're going to move on to if you have student loans, they're coming out of deferment and you're not quite sure what to do. So these student loans are coming out of deferment, you're getting the letters, you're getting the notices, and you're not quite sure if you can handle that payment every month, and I don't blame you. I've seen some of those payments and they're huge. So what do? You want to give your student loan servicers a call and give them your financial information to see if you can get set up on income-based repayment terms. So basically, they're going to look at your financial situation versus how much you owe, and then they're going to set an amount that they're going to allow you to pay back. In some cases, they'll also grant you another deferment based on your situation. That's pretty common right now because there's still that COVID lag and it's a little bit easier to get that done. However, the income-based repayment program, I've actually seen people have a letter from their servicer that says their repayment is $0 a month. And just a side note with that, for people that are trying to buy a house with student loans, if you get a 0 payment letter, that means we can use that 0 payment letter and not have to count your student loan debt against you when you're qualifying for a house. So a little side note there. Real quick, we want to cover statute of limitations with student loans. If you got private student loans, it really depends on what state you're in. So you're going to want to Google that and figure out, okay, whatever state I'm in, is it 5 years, 6 years, or 10 years? So there is a statute of limitations on private student loans, but Fed, forget it. You got them for life. There are rare instances when you can file bankruptcy on them, but that's rare. It's hard to do. you, and it can really cripple you down the road. Here's how. If you're one of those who are able to file bankruptcy on student loans, you could run into issues down the road. And you might be thinking, well, I got my degree. What do I need a student loan for? Let's say you wanted to go back to school to get your master's or PhD, a doctorate, whatever it is. You're not going to get student loans again. Not only that, if you need to co-sign with your kid or a Parent Plus loan, they're going to deny that application because at one point in your life, you filed bankruptcy on those student loans. Let's say it's for a grandkid. Not going to happen. They got you. They know you filed bankruptcy on them, so you'll never ever be able to get a student loan again through the federal government or co-sign for anyone to get one as well. So just a little tidbit there, something to think about. Lastly, you might be thinking, well, the student loans are going to be forgiven. If you haven't been paying attention, the max that they're going to be doing is 10. If you fit the other box, you can get 20. But most people have a lot more in student loan debt than that. So it's good to just stay on top of them. And make sure you check out the links in the description if you're looking for certain avenues to get these back on track or stay on track. I appreciate you checking out the video. Feel free to drop any comments. We'll see you at the next one.